What's up, guys? Derek, moreplates.moredates.com. I wanted to make a quick video on bodybuilding coaches and gurus. So, how do you know who to go with, and the reason why you should not go with a coach who, or take advice in general from somebody who has phenomenal top 0.01% genetics. What I mean by that is like hyper responders to anabolics and bodybuilding in general. Guys like, I don't want to like specific, like, let's just say like not even like a Phil Heath, just a guy who's like a good IFBB pro. Most of the time, these guys, believe it or not, this was like baffling to me once I started seeing this in real life, is they just don't know what they're talking about most of the time. And the reason for that is, like, I have no biases here. Like, I have no vested, like, I have no like motivation financially to, try and convince you guys to use my services, because I don't do coaching. Like, I don't have time, nor do I really want to be honest. I'm just telling you what I would do if I was like just starting out in bodybuilding and was taking it really seriously, and what I would avoid. So just based on my experience that I've seen over the past, 5-6 years now, is a lot of IFBB pros that are like great bodybuilders, once they retire, they have to find a means of making money. And a lot of those guys, their means of making money is coaching. This is fine for some guys. The problem with this is when you have guys who are hyper responders, they are so used to having a coach themselves tell them what to do, and being such a great responder to compounds and to just general bodybuilding, they never had to get like deep into research to figure out how to maximize their physique, because they just responded perfectly to everything. It's just like guys with, hair loss prevention. Do you have any guys who know a lot about preventing hair loss that aren't experiencing hair loss? Like, typically no, because they have no reason to go, research it in the first place, because it's not practical or a practical use of their time in their real life, because they already have that thing solved. So bodybuilding too, the guys who know the most are the guys with crappy genetics who still developed a good physique. Like, those are the guys you want to listen to. I know that sounds ridiculous, and I used to think, why would somebody listen to, like Hani Rambod or like blah, 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 or, like, I don't know, what's other examples of gurus in the industry? Why would they listen to a guy who's fat and looks terrible? And a lot of the time it comes down to these guys, I'm not speaking about Hani in particular, I'm just talking about guys who actually have incentive to learn are the guys you want to listen to, because these guys are the ones who went deep into research, because these are the ones who couldn't develop insane physiques just by, doing like randomly like popping Winstrol or whatever and like going and eating McDonald's, If you go listen to the guys in the 90s talk about their cycles, there's a Tom Platz video he did where he actually interviewed a bunch of top bodybuilders in the 90s and like guys at the Olympia level, and it was anonymous, even though you can kind of tell who it is based on their voices and like seeing through the kind of like pixelation. These guys are talking like openly about what they take, and half of them don't even know what they're talking about when it comes to anabolics, pharmacology in general. There's, like I take this because like, I don't know, like this other guy said he uses it and like it worked good. So I was like, I'll just take this many, blah, blah, blah. I'll take, I pop like 2 Winstrol like every 3 days, and I do this. And it's just like, just listening to the guys talk, it just like, if you really understand bodybuilding pharmacology, it makes you really question, do these guys even understand what they're talking about? And a lot of the time, like back then, there was no internet that you could just reference for this stuff. So no, like a lot of these guys, they just rely on their genetics, and it works for them because they had such good genetics. They didn't need that like top 0.01% of knowledge, and they still did amazing. And nowadays, what you see is you have guys who are retiring who try to become coaches, but their knowledge is derived from their hyper response to anabolics, and not because they ever actually research what this stuff does. They're trying to apply their knowledge in their hyper response capacity, where they barely learned anything and still did good, to guys who have average or subpar genetics and expecting the same result, and it just never translates. Like, I've heard modern guys who, are current coaches telling guys to use Arimidex and Letrozole in their peak week to dry out. It's like, these are two completely identical drugs in their mechanism of action. If you have crashed your E2 to 0, does adding Letro really contribute to anything? No, you're just like hindering the guy's health for no reason. You have these guys who are like highly acclaimed IFBB pros, like giving out protocols that just make absolutely no sense. And like, to me, like the way they go about giving stuff out is like the equivalent of them taking whatever they randomly took when they were IFBB pros and just doing amazing because they never had to research how stuff works. Like the guys who know what they're talking about, if you want to know who to go with, find a coach who took somebody who has crappy genetics and made them a good bodybuilder. Not a guy who took a great bodybuilder and made him a great bodybuilder because he didn't actually do anything. He just said, take this, and the guy hyper responds. Go find somebody who has time and time again shown to take completely average or subpar guys and just blown them up and made them competitive in the IFBB Pro Open League. Like, not guys who take, you could give a literal idiot Phil Heath. You could give a literal idiot Phil Heath and still have him, top, like, at the Olympia, winning all those Olympias in the past. Like, those kind of guys hyper respond to such a degree that it's like, the margin of error is so high because, like, everything about them is just perfect, and it's just like they respond so well. Like Kevin Levrone talking about his nationals diet in like 91. He talked about how he'd go to like 7-Eleven and get like hot dogs with like fake cheese on it and then go to, McDonald's and get like pies or whatever. And this was like, he got like shredded to the bone and won his pro card. And I think it was 91. And this was like with a diet model that nobody would succeed with except him. Like, that's an example. I'm not saying Kevin Levrone doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm just giving an example of a guy who, like, would you really want to take advice from a guy who could do that and never had to research into like intricate, blood sugar management and like how to go about using X drug with X drug and why you shouldn't use this with this? And you just had a guy that was such a hyper responder. He could eat like cake all day and still like win shows. Like, probably not. Like, you want to get a guy who is so knowledgeable that he can take a guy who looks like crap and make him competitive. And there are a handful of those guys out there. I don't want to name any names or anything like that. But just be wary about coaches, because I see some like dangerous protocols being handed out. A lot of these guys are critical of other guys' dangerous protocols when they themselves don't even know what they're talking about. So if something is just steer away from the guys who work only exclusively with genetic phenoms or are genetic phenoms themselves, is my advice, because those are the guys who also had coaches take them under the wing and just say, do this, do that, do this. And they never went out of their way to look at clinical data or, experiment and do such and such with themselves and go to extreme measures trying this and that because everything works for them and they had no reason to. Hopefully that helps you narrow down your search. Like, I know it's not extremely helpful that I don't have a list, but honestly, I don't keep up 100% with who is, on the, doing this currently right now. I just see random videos popping up on YouTube and I'll listen in on conversations between like gurus and stuff. And sometimes the stuff is just completely nonsensical and you got to be really wary of these guys who on the outside seem to probably know what they're talking about because their physiques are better than everyone else and they had great, records in the IFBB league. But in practical application, they have no idea how to work with guys who have bad genetics, unlike theirs, where they're just have like low levels of myostatin and hyper respond to eating like cheeseburgers all day. So just keep that in mind, guys. Work with guys who have a tried and true record of bringing very average guys to like a high level. That's my suggestion. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplatesmoredates.com. Check me out on Instagram at moreplates_moredates, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, podcast. Talk to you guys soon.